Many methods. What are some scientific methods? Conducting an experiment and other scientific investigations not only follow a cookbook recipe, scientists do not always use the same steps in every investigation or use the steps in the same order. They may even repeat some of the steps. The following graphic shows a pathway that scientists might follow while conducting an investigation. Defining a problem. After making observations or reading scientific reports, a scientist might be curious about some unexplained aspect of a topic. A scientific problem is a specific question that a scientist wants to answer. The problem must be well defined or precisely stated so that it can be investigated. Forming a hypothesis and making predictions. When scientists form a hypothesis, they are making an educated guess about the problem. A hypothesis must be tested to see if it's true. Before testing a hypothesis, scientists usually make predictions about what will happen in an investigation. Planning an investigation. A scientific investigation must be carefully planned so that it tests a hypothesis in a meaningful way. Scientists need to decide whether investigation should be done in the field or in the laboratory. They must also determine what equipment and technology are required and how materials for the investigation will be obtained. Identifying variables. The independent variable of an experiment is identified in the hypothesis, but scientists need to decide how the independent variable will change. They also must identify other variables that will be controlled. In addition, scientists must determine how they will measure the results of the experiment. The dependent variable often can be measured in more than one way. For example, if the dependent variable is fish health, scientists could measure the size, weight, or number of offspring. Collecting and organizing data. The data collected in an investigation must be recorded and properly organized so that they can be analyzed. Data such as measurements and numbers are often organized into tables, spreadsheets, or graphs. Interpreting data and analyzing information. After they finish collecting data, scientists must analyze this information. Their analysis will help them draw conclusions about the results. Scientists may have different interpretations of the same data because they analyze it using different methods. Drawing and defending conclusions. Scientists conclude whether the results of their investigation support the hypothesis. If the hypothesis is not supported, scientists may think about the problem some more or try to come up with a new hypothesis test. Or they may repeat the experiment to see if any mistakes were made. When they publish the results of their investigation, scientists must be prepared to defend their conclusion if they are challenged by other scientists. Life lessons. How are scientific methods used? Scientific methods are used in physical, life, and earth science. Which methods are used depends upon the type of investigation that is conducted. Different situations require different methods. Scientists choose the setting for an investigation very carefully. Some problems are suited for field investigation. For example, many life scientists work in the field in order to study living things in their natural habitat. Many geologists begin in the field collecting rocks and samples, but those same geologists might then study their samples in a laboratory where conditions can be controlled. Sometimes scientists study things that are very large, very small, or occur over a very long period of time. In these cases, scientists can use models in their investigation. A scientific model is a representation of an object or process that allows scientists to study something in detail. Scientists can conduct experiments and make observation using models. Scientific methods are used in life science. Life science is a Life science, life scientists use scientific methods to study how traits are passed from parents to offspring. One team of scientists recently studied birds called finches. Zebra finches learn songs by imitating and singing older relatives, but the scientists thought that genes might play a role in how the birds learn their songs. To test the hypothesis, they isolated a group of young zebra finches from older birds. When the young birds grew up, they sang differently than wild finches did. Then the scientists placed another group of young males in with the isolated finch. The younger finches imitated the songs of the older ones, but the songs were slightly different. As scientists continued to add new groups of young finches with the isolated ones, each group started to sing more like wild finches. Scientists concluded that genes influence the way zebra finches learn how to sing. What are some characteristics of good scientific investigation? Scientists may use different ways to test the same hypothesis, but good scientific investigations share some important characteristics. Scientific observations should be well documented and have supporting evidence. In an experiment, the variables should be controlled as much as possible. Experiments should be repeated multiple times by the original investigator. Scientific investigations should also be able to be replicated by scientists not involved in the original work. If the investigation is valid, the same results will be found. Before publishing a study, scientific journals ask other scientists to review an article. This is called peer review. Scientists must provide answers to the questions raised by their peers. How can you evaluate the quality of a scientific information? Scientific information is available on the internet, on television, and magazine. Some sources are more trustworthy than others. The most reliable scientific information is published in scientific journals. However, these articles are often difficult to understand. Sometimes summaries of these articles are published for the public. Many scientists write books for the general public. These publications are trustworthy if the scientist is writing about his field or study. Reliable books may also be written by people who aren't scientists but who are knowledgeable about a particular field. Usually the most reliable internet sources are government or academic web pages. Commercial web pages are often unreliable because they are trying to sell something.